Hello, how are you, Bianca?
I'm so good, Jenny. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I love your energy and your smile, and I feel like we have a lot in common and able to just kind of talk
Yeah.
easily, and which is fun. We met at a Kathy Heller 12-week course through the summer made to do this, and we've met a lot of wonderful women and their passion to get their business started for everyone. And Bianca is a mother of two. She's got a 1 and 3 year old, so she's got her hands full at home. And I'm going to let her talk a little bit about her journey and what she has going on in her life at the moment. Um, so, Bianca, let's start with your story here. Tell me a little bit about. So, a couple of years ago, you were laid off,
Mhm.
and so you finally kind of started figuring out what you wanted to do, and you didn't want to go back to the corporate world and just be another number. And I'm glad that you took the risk on yourself. We got to give ourselves some credit that we can go for our passion. So, tell me about what you had in mind.
Yeah, so it's funny, we met in that program and that Kathy Heller's 12-week program. And it was right before that program that I was laid off 2 weeks into maternity leave. And I was at a point where, of course, it felt like the least ideal time for that to happen. I had just had a baby, my second baby. We had just moved into our first house. And I had always, so I'm a photographer and an educator and now a podcast host, but at the time didn't have the podcast yet. And I had always wanted to go full time on my own, but it was always something that I did on the side, just on the side, um, and then focus on my full time. But when that happened, I just kind of took a moment and I thought to myself, okay, if I could try that hard, if I could work that hard, if I could be that loyal, if I could put in that much time and energy and have it kind of like, whiplashed from me at a time like that, what's stopping me from putting in all of that energy, time, passion, whatever, into what I want to do, what I really want to do? Like, when is the side going to turn into my full time? So I doubled down on myself at that point, and then the universe tempted me. They had, invited me to reapply, and then I also got another offer from somewhere else, and I was like, you know what? No, this is what I'm doing. And that's when I entered Kathy Heller's program with you. But I just find it to be so important. I think that sometimes making decisions like that, scary decisions, at times that don't feel like the perfect time, because really there is no perfect time. Like the stars
Exactly.
aligning, there's always going to be a reason why we can logically deduce, oh, this is not the time for that. This is not the time for that. But there is really no time like right now to do what you know to be true to yourself. So I think that if there's any learnings from that, I say to myself that it was a blessing, and that was the best time for me to decide to commit to myself, is at a time that felt the scariest.
It kind of gives you, yeah, it kind of like makes you decide, doesn't it? Like, I'm in, or I'm just back to kind of just living the okay life that I'm not, loving, or I'm all in and I'm going to do this and I'm ready. And, like you said, there's never a good time to start anything. People always wait to either get married and there's finances, or finish school, or this and that. And,
Right.
it just, life just happens when you said, like the universe. It's almost just like the universe has got your back. You got to believe that it's happening at that moment for a specific reason, and you just have to trust it, and you just have to kind of follow it, and get on board and follow what it's telling you.
Right. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about your photography. So what is your passion behind all the photography?
So I specialize in intimate family portraiture. That's my absolute favorite thing to photograph. And I'd say that that has really been, and that's something that I've focused on my whole life. Like, I started photographing my own family from when I was a teenager, like super young. And then it's just kind of snowballed since then. And what I love about the work and of what it brings to my life is like this constant reminder of how easy it is to lose sight of your own magic. just in my experiences with like clients and the off the cuff remarks of like, you know, kind of like showing that they don't realize how gorgeous they and their life really is. Like there really needs to be no preparation. There doesn't need to be the perfect outfit. There doesn't need to be the perfect location even. The perfect thing to capture is what's real for you, because what you'll want to remember in the end is the things that you didn't realize were your everyday, the mundane, the boring, the things that you kind of discounted just because it was in your face all the time. We don't know when our now becomes our nostalgia. It's like a very elusive, slippery thing, because something that is so abundant and so monotonous, all of a sudden one day never doesn't happen again. It's like, you know, the last time I wore my 1-year-old in the wrap, I don't remember when it was the last time. All of a sudden he got too heavy and I don't hold him like that anymore. And it's super sad, but it,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't think about that as a sentimental thing while I was doing it every day. Right. So just having this constant, I kind of refer to like my photography as like a form of meditation for me, because it's like something that I put in front of my face that like blocks out all the noise, and I'm just looking in this frame and I'm able to like really look and really see what I'm pointing at. And that's kind of like a metaphor for what I hope to be able to give to others, and what I hope that those photographs will do for them, help them to see their now.
That moment, you know, that's absolutely beautiful when you mentioned, you know, about being, you know, so nostalgic and all. And I absolutely, I've got my computer and my phone, it just blows up with, I'm always taking pictures, snapping pictures. Even all my kids' friends are like, okay, you can, you know, so they're like, stop now. And I get the eye roll now because they're almost teens.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm like, and it's not always the posed shots. It's always kind of like the candids that really get you from the happy to happy, you know, posed shots. But now, you know, I get the eye roll and then the quick smile, and then it's like, okay, stop. So, you know,
but it's also funny to capture the eye roll, right? Because then you can look back and be like, look what a little whatever you were.
Right. And it's funny you say that, because yeah, like the kids, they'll look back to go, why was I doing that face, or why did I make this weird, like, I don't know, like a you know, 2 fingers are holding up and like pointing at the camera, and I'm like, I don't know what that was, but you went through like a whole half a year stage that anytime you were in front of the camera, you just did that, like it was a natural thing. But yeah, I absolutely, photographs are so important. I mean, look at how many times when you sit down just trying to reminisce with your family and you're like, let's find a photo album and go back, you know. And I think it's something that everybody should absolutely cherish. But tell me, how can we as moms get others, or how do we get in front of the camera and not always behind the camera?
I love this question, because this is something that I've heard so consistently that I actually specifically developed like a challenge where, you know, you sign up and you get dripped over the course of 3 days, these 3 homework assignments essentially. And it's called Get Mama in the Photo, because it's such a common occurrence. I'm always the one taking photos. I'm never in the photo. My partner doesn't think to photograph me. But a little bit of tough love from me here is you cannot you cannot leave something so important like as your own legacy, as your own feeling of being seen. You cannot leave that responsibility up to anyone but yourself. And, so in this challenge, I give like 3 very simple, I say, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's not anything that's going to like blow your mind, but it's like these simple, doable habits to start implementing into your life to kind of like recenter your mind to acknowledge the value that you have in being in the frame. One thing that I will say about this, that I think is one of the most important parts, is to not take permanent action on temporary feelings. And when I say that, I mean, if you don't like the way you look that day, we all deserve to have photos that we love of ourselves, but not every photo has to be something that we plan to post or go on the wall. It's like a visual journal of your life, right? So, and your kids aren't going to remember that made up version of you. They want to remember the version of their mom that they saw the most, right? So, and also there are things that I, hated about myself for years, and all of a sudden I don't care about. Like I hated my profile for years, and all of a sudden I don't care. What if I deleted every photo that showed my profile? What if I never took photos of myself because I was so consumed with my hatred for that, So let's not take this permanent action of like not getting in front of the camera, deleting the photo, not taking the photo based off of feelings that feel so consuming now, but like our kind of future, maybe wiser selves won't feel that way anymore, right?
Yeah, that's very important. And I think that self-image is very hard, because I think too, as moms, or when you're even a stay-at-home mom, you never feel beautiful. You never feel put together anymore. You're not going anywhere. The only thing you're going to be wearing is spit up and a couple markers or paint or whatever the kids ate for lunch that day. As they get older, you may be able to at least keep a black pair of yoga pants that doesn't have rips in the knees from crawling around the ground with them. I know, it's great, ain't it? But it is very important. And you look at your kids at some point, and you're like, you know what? Yeah, this is what you look like. This is you're the mom, and mom looks like whatever it is you look like at that moment. And sometimes when you do, put the hair up and put the curls in and the lipstick on and the eyelashes and the look at your mom, where are you going? Like, well, sometimes, yes, you absolutely need to feel beautiful sometimes, because it's something you have to do for yourself. Every woman wants and needs to feel beautiful, and definitely, to hear that from others, and actually to hear it from your kids when you're not made up is probably the most genuine compliment and heartfelt. Just take it. I remember my daughter, when she was like 4 years old, she looked at me after something, I don't even remember what we were doing, just playing, and she just started staring at me, and she held my face, and she just looked at me, and she goes, "Mommy, you're so pretty." And she just, I swear to God, at that moment, I'm like, everything that, all the restless nights, and like everything just that moment, and I'll remember that, and I wasn't wearing anything crazy, or, but, and you remember certain moments, and those are the moments that, whether you capture in your mind, or if somebody does happen to get it on camera, you just take those moments and you keep them in your heart bank forever and ever. And it's such a precious thing. There are times that I'll tell my husband, like, hey, when the kids are sitting arm in arm, and which is never, because my son and my daughter, they're kind of, now they're in their young teens, they're tweens now, but I could rarely get them together. But they always would fight on my lap, and one would be on the right knee, the other would be on the left knee, and they're bumping heads, but there would just be a split second in there where I'm like, oh, they're not arguing. And then I'd say, hey, Jason, take a picture, get your phone out and take a picture of this moment, because this is never going to happen again. So I can show it to them that, hey, look, you guys did sit next to each other for like 14 seconds and didn't scream. But yeah, it's so important to get those, because memories aren't always smiles. There are moments that that aren't happy, and they're sad, and there's anger and frustration and complications, but those are the moments that get us from the other happy moments to happy moments.
And contrast is so important too. And I think that like the root of the conversation is to make space for all of it, is like not just the one dimension. So when we talk about, it's not just a matter of like made up versus not made up, or posed versus candid, or like the documentary style photo session versus the on a blanket in the field. There's space for all of it. There's value in all of it, but it's just a part of a conversation about, when you're thinking about this, the photos you take of your life and the photos that you hire people to take and whatever, there should be like a holistic type of mindset around it. Like, you want to remember many different versions. There's sometimes where I take out my camera to take a picture, and I just do it because it's my impulse, and I'm thinking, I cannot even believe I'm taking a photo of this right now. Like, but it's something in me is telling me, like, maybe like my woo-woo time, but like my like older, wiser wants of a picture of this. I remember I took I've taken very sad photos, like photos of crying or whatever. But like, it's important to take those photos so that you have this frame of reference. Like when I had my first son, I went into a pretty deep postpartum anxiety and depression that was unexpected to the 10th degree. I mean, not that any of us really expects it to happen, but like nothing about it was a surprise. We had, tried really hard and we, X, Y, and Z. So when I felt like that, I didn't know what to do with it. And I was taking these photos, like the smiling, like, here's my new baby photos. But I look at those photos and I feel so disconnected and disoriented. And I'm like, I'm glad I have them, but also it makes me uncomfortable because I didn't feel like that at all. So then the fact that I also have these quote unquote terrible photos of me looking miserable and these selfies that I took where you would think, why would someone ever want these photos? They feel incredibly validating for me because I look at those and I think I have compassion for her. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like, look how far I've come. I'm so grateful because like my second kid, I didn't have that experience. So I'm able to see that contrast. Yeah. So, there's so much like we don't know. There's so much that we don't know that is to be gained from these photos that we're taking of ourselves. And what we need to understand is that it's all valid, it's all important, and we have so much value that we can't even begin to understand in the now.
Right. Yeah, luckily I didn't have any of that postpartum, but I had a couple friends and it was tough to see them at that, at looking like that and just feeling so down on themselves when people think that, oh, you had a baby, why aren't you smiling? God is good. You have this wonderful gift in front of you. And sometimes it can just, there's just so many feelings and emotions that kind of overwhelm your body that you just don't know what to do with. And until you're in that situation, I don't think you'll ever really fully grasp that type of emotion that is, in your body and how to even, am I going to feel better? When is this going to stop? Because that you're not this person, and then you got to take care of another tiny human and you're so sleep deprived and good Lord, you're just like, when is this ever going to get better? But there's always better days. You just got to know there's always better days. Right. So you started a podcast. Tell us a little bit about that and the name of the podcast, because I love how you came up with that. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my podcast is called Help Me See, and it is truly the spirit of the podcast. And I don't mean it in a way of like, oh, I shall show you how to see. I mean it in a way of, I need to have these conversations to help myself continue to see, because the only way that I feel to be able to see all of like the precious magnitude in our now is to have these conversations of awareness. So the podcast is, either some special guests that talk about, their life of intention and how they choose to see, or my kind of like solo, I call it like an audio diary, because it's just me speaking my truth and talking about all the things that I feel like need to be brought to light. And honestly, a big reason why I started the podcast is because of how I felt when I felt that whiplash from, postpartum. I truly felt like this almost anger at no one and everyone, in that like, if there was something around me that showed some sort of dimension in this area, and it wasn't just like cloud nine, bliss of what I was seeing, maybe I wouldn't felt so jarred. Maybe it wouldn't have felt so isolating. Right. So, I'm really passionate about having very honest conversations about the good, the bad, the ugly, those conversations where you hear that you think, oh my gosh, somebody else thinks that too. So like, that's the home. That is what I consider the home for those conversations in my world, is that podcast.
Yeah, it's almost like a type of, like you said, like meditation and therapy for yourself. I've found the exact same thing with speaking when I started doing the solo casts. You're my fourth guest that I have that I'm recording with. So, and it's amazing to talk with all these different women and see their, what's in their head, and just to make it come to reality is a great vision. And but I definitely love to talk and just, yeah, just to let other people, other women and mamas know that you're not alone, that there's, we're out there, you're seen, you're heard, and you just got to hope that the message gets in front of the right people that need to hear it, and that's what's so important when, you say share this, that if you have a friend that you think that is going through a certain, situation that they may find, similar, well, let's get it in front of the people that need to hear this, so to let them know that they're not alone, and we're all here and we can all relate on some, on some level. But I definitely am so glad that you began to do your thing, and all the other women that are out there and have the vision, you can do that. You can do it. You just have to believe in yourself and literally just say, today is the day. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna put a vision on paper, because that's what I deserve to do, and you deserve it.
Oh, and I don't like qualifying what you do by like using your children as an example, but I do it sometimes. I bring it up because it is like the easiest way to digest it for most of us. When you love something with so much of you, that it's really easy for that love to like overshadow and kind of like mutate in almost a not healthy way, right? Like we shouldn't feel like we do one thing for ourselves in a week and it was like, whew, a guilty pleasure. Like, no, if
Right.
this is your life, and like what you would want for your children, like to do, like I would want my sons to do what is most important to them and not live their lives in the shadows of someone else. So while of course they are a huge priority in my life and a huge, a facet and something that I pour so much into, I own the fact that my identity is also separate from them. Like I deserve to live a fulfilling life, and I love that it can be something for them to look up to, but I don't want to do what I do because of them. Right. And I think that's okay. And I think that, it's something that needs to be echoed a little bit loudly in this world, is like, not everything you do has to be because and for your children, because as beautiful as that is, and it is beautiful, it also can be a little bit unhealthy and could stop you from really living into your truest and deepest life that you deserve to live.
Right. And then by the time they're 18 and out of the house and they're like, okay, mom, who? And they're off doing their own life. And you're like, oh, crap. I got to find something now to do, but yeah, you
Who am I?
absolutely,
Mhm.
you love your kids beyond measure. It's such an unbelievable, fulfilling. And when you're a stay-at-home mom, it's literally all you know and all you know how to do.
Mhm.
But you do tend to lose yourself if that's all you're doing all day
Mhm.
long.
Mhm.
And mom guilt is a huge, huge thing. And it wasn't up until a couple of years ago that I myself was like, man, who was I before I had my kids? It's like a decade later, and you completely lose yourself. And you look back even at pictures, and you're like, oh my God, I was smiling. I had my hands up in the air at concerts. I was listening to, rap music, dancing on, whatever at the nearest bar. I'm not going to go into that, but yes, we have those times that I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, all of a sudden you have a baby and boom, you're in this completely different dimension, and you're like, I'm in the twilight zone,
Yeah.
but it's lonely. It's very lonely because you're literally stuck in the house with these kids all the time. And I think until well, I mean, I had it, you have a full-time job, which I had a full-time job at our family business. And then all of a sudden, you have the baby, and then you're done. You're done being the working person, getting a paycheck and feeling like you're contributing, and all of a sudden you're not doing that, so you almost feel worthless, like you're a typical, like, is mom really a title? Do your kids even, like, the other day my son was like, well, mom, you don't do anything. And
Oh,
it makes you like, oh my God, think if you weren't big enough now, I would smack you over my legs and give you your rump a good. But it's like, I want to create a legacy for my kids. I want them to see that mom can work hard and mom can have a business and do what she wants to do and still contribute. I don't have to just make your bed and clean your clothes and make you lunch. And, yeah, my job and you're my kids and I'll do anything for you. But you have to realize that they're not going to be there all the time,
Right.
and you need to take care of yourself. And yeah, going to get a pedicure is not going to fulfill your mom cup or taking care of your mom guilt. It's something you have to do from your soul. The passion
Yeah.
is within your soul. You have a bigger purpose, and that purpose is to let others know that there's a world out there that, you know, all of us at some point, I think, just feel alone, and we kind of suffer in silence. And maybe because we shouldn't feel that way, you know, like, why should we feel, you know, well, mom, we shouldn't feel, well, you shouldn't feel alone. You have kids and you have everything that you wanted. Yeah, but there's still something inside me that says I'm more than that. You know, you're
Mhm.
more than just a mom. And I think that's okay, right? I mean, it's almost like you need somebody to say, like, you're good, you're okay. It's okay for you to do XYZ and still be a mom, because you can do it. Others have done it, so can you, you know?
Right. I think the important part is to, whatever that voice is for you, is just, you need to get still enough to hear it, because there isn't, you know, i- if staying at home and, being a mom is something that fills your cup over, that is amazing. If you're doing that and you also feel this like ache to do something else, you need to listen to that as well. If you want to stay in your corporate full-time job and you love it, do not feel guilty about being a working mom. There's zero shame. It's amazing. It
Yeah.
is all amazing. It is all valid, but like, you have to make room for yourself in your life. Like, you have to prioritize yourself as if you are one of your children. You have to go do a visualization and go visit yourself when you were a kid,
Right.
reacquaint yourself with like the purest desires that you had, because it's so easy to forget, because it's all noble and beautiful work. Like, making your son's beds, making them lunch, it's not even a just, it's a beautiful act of love and caretaking. But when you're not feeling fulfilled by that, when you start feeling like almost like bitter about it and like that frustration, and when your son says that to you, of course, in ignorant way of like not really understanding what he's saying, and I'm sure later in life he'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. But
Right. I hope so.
it's like almost like taking that as a sign of like, okay, noted. Apparently I need to really lean into prioritizing myself even more to show him, hey, nope, this is what mama's doing because
Right.
this is what mama wants to do.
Oh,
And, like, so you're going to have to wait. Maybe you don't have that ride to the mall today.
right, exactly. Mom, yeah, did you wash my hockey clothes? Yeah, mom, the other day, like, I have glass doors on my office, and
Mm,
like, I'm looking at you, but so the glass doors are here, and
yeah.
they get pushed up against the, I don't know, those of you who can't see me on the video, but like, the
Yeah.
fishy blowfish face against the door. Can I have Skittles? Can I have this? And I'm doing, go away, go away. I'm like trying to focus. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
get blinds. I'm gonna get blinds. When the blinds are down, mama's working, leave me alone, figure it out. Like, you guys
Yes.
are not 5 and 6. You can take care of yourself and clearly have a snack without me taking an approval. Like, it's like, yes, okay, kid, I appreciate you asking, but I'm doing my thing. Like, leave
Yeah.
me alone. Boundaries, people, boundaries. Yes.
And if not boundaries, blinds.
Right. Boundaries or blinds, whichever one will work for you. It's all good. Take care of yourself. It's validated. Love it. Oh my gosh. So funny. Oh my goodness. So, okay, so you have a challenge within your I guess, is it in your podcast, or do you have like a website that people can go to kind of see all that?
Yeah, I'll share. Oh, for sure. I'll share that link if you think your listeners would enjoy that. I'll share the link challenge with you. My website's just my name, biancaleamora.com. And the same for my Instagram, Bianca Leamora. And yeah, just you'll find more conversations like this, just real life conversations, and some pretty sentimental photos of family life.
Yeah. I love seeing all your photos, because I noticed you do a lot of black and white too, which takes
Yeah.
the tone of the photo like almost to a whole different level. And it's something that I need to do more of, because I definitely, when you look at a black and white photo, it's a completely different concept almost of the color. And like even when you look back from, like your great grandparents' photos, and half of them are in black and white, you're like, oh man, it's beautiful. But why do you go to black and white a lot? Is there a reason you do that?
It's so funny that you say that, because I found myself when I edit my photos, it's a very like intuitive process. Like I just go with like whatever my gut's telling me about the feeling of the photo. But I do so many black and whites that I find myself saying no, like trying to resist the black and whites. But overall, I'd say that it's because the black and white has a way of like, um, it's this timeless feel because it eliminates the dimension of like the current day almost. Like a lot of the colors are like kind of like hints about like what's going on. When you take all the color away, it's kind of like turning the volume down a little bit and making it quieter so that it focuses you more on the feeling. You're not distracted by like a pretty yellowy warm sun ray, because you're just like even right behind me, like this mama and baby photo that I love so much. It was a really pretty warm, like sunny day, but I wanted it to be more about the emotion and more about like what she was, her eyes, like the feeling in her eyes about holding her newborn. And black and white just does that for me. So I think that, the black and white of a photo kind of like removes context a little bit more and helps you really see the juiciness of that moment.
That's a fantastic way of putting it, because when you just put that into words, that absolutely does take away, like you said, like the volume, the noise all in the background, and just kind of focusing on the subject at that particular moment, and focusing on that main image. And that's beautiful. I got to do more black and whites. Stay tuned. I'll post more black and whites coming soon.
I'll be watching.
So, and tell me, you opened up your own studio as well, right?
I
And
did.
how is that going?
It's going. I mean, it was not in the plans at all. But it's just something that kind of fell into my lap, and I just said, okay. And honestly, it is like my haven. It is it is like my solace. It is my place for quiet. I'm here mostly working most of the time. I do have the ability to take headshots and photos in here, but yeah, and it's so important to have whatever that space looks like for you, a space of like, this is my space. Even if it's not a separate physical space, even if it's just like a corner of your home that really feels like, oh, I thrive here, because it really makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I wish I knew more of like that feng shui, or however. I
Yeah.
spoke with a woman, and I'm hoping I can get her on the podcast, because I find that absolutely fascinating, and how you kind of go about doing that. But I know nothing about that topic
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, even like if you look around my office here, those that are on the video and can see it, but it's like this dark blue tone. And that's, I actually, well, I shouldn't say, I painted it about 6 years ago, but it's too dark for me. I almost need to just literally get everything out of here and just redo it, because I want to be more of a minimalist and white and airy, and just, that makes me feel, like you said, it's just, that's what makes me feel comfortable and calm and in my space and
Yeah.
peace within. And I got to lighten things up, because my soul belongs at the beach, in the sand, in front of the ocean and the water. And that's when I am having a rough moment or a time, I literally just close my eyes for a long second, and just, I can almost hear like the waves crashing in the background, and it calms me. It
Yeah.
definitely brings me to a calmer place. And I think it's very important for everybody to have a place that they can call their own, or at least go to in their imagination if they're feeling overwhelmed. It's very important.
For sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I have two questions that I'm going to ask you. I did not prep you for these. So
Okay.
here we go. No. If you could go back to any time frame, whether or not childhood, high school, college, young adulthood, what time period would you go back to, and why?
Of my life.
Yeah.
Hmm. Um, mm, Part of me, it's like I want to say childhood because my memory is so poor and I feel like I don't remember that, but my gut instinct would be college because I just there's something about being in a container where I mean, it just seems like pure magic to me. If I could do anything in the world, I would go back and get my master's degree, but I couldn't do it in the way that I'd want to now. I'd want to live on campus and just focus on my work. And I just love the idea of like, especially when you're studying something that you love, that is like your focus time. It's like, I'm here for school and my school is taking photographs of what's most important to me. I don't know what's better than that. So college, I'd go back to college, and not in the party way, but in the, ooh, I get to work and not have any distractions way.
Right. And that way you only know when you've hit 40 and you're an adult, unfortunately, because you don't realize that when you're of college age.
Yes.
College is party time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one more, what advice would you give to anyone out there that might be suffering from any type of chronic illness, pain? If you're speaking to like, first time moms or moms that have, postpartum, if you have any type of advice for them, what kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, that's a good one because I know, between postpartum and I also, for a few years had kind of like an unmanaged, well, I do have a thyroid condition, but like unmanaged. So the symptoms felt like very ever present. But so when you're in that space, I find that it can feel very claustrophobic. So I guess if I had to think of any advice, um, it would be to just honor your impulses, honor the what you find yourself needing, and don't resist it. Like if you feel like I need fresh air, I need to go on a walk, like really just honor those things to react to what makes you feel good when that is. Because sometimes it's like, well, that's like once in a blue moon. Okay, well then if that's the blue moon strikes, then go. Because, just creating a container for yourself that makes you feel like not in a container, that makes you feel like, okay, I know that like once I feel good enough, I'm going to do this, and even if you're not feeling good, if you're feeling like, these are my only options, do what makes you feel most good in that moment. Like sometimes I'll try to be forcing myself to be productive. And I'm like, you know what? Whatever I do right now is not going to be infused with any sort of good energy. Right now, I just want to watch trash TV and I'm going to do it. But the big difference here is that you need to do it without the guilt. If you're bedridden, if you're like, I can't get out of bed, I can't do anything, I can't even bring myself to like fold laundry, don't feel guilt. That is like the most important. Like say, you could be watching the TV and just the whole time feel this like, oh my gosh, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be doing XYZ. So you're not even receiving the benefit of it, or you could be watching the TV and say, I don't give a blank. This is what I'm doing right now. This is what's going to bring me joy. And I'm living this and everything else can wait. So you could have the same exact experience, but two totally different feelings coming through. So try to lean into that.
That's a great way to put it because yeah, guilt can take your mind in a completely different direction. And when you need to rest your mind and your body, or both at the same time, then by means you got to do it. You got to take care of that.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful advice. I really appreciate that. So why don't let's see, I'm going to get your links and I will post them in the show notes so everybody can see your webpage and maybe, take a moment for that challenge.
Yeah.
And follow you on your Help Me See podcast and take a look at your images that you post so people can get some inspiration for their own as well. And let's get mama in front of these cameras, okay?
Yes.
Friends, spouses, significant others. Let's take these moments and let's capture those moments without saying, hey, look over here, 1, 2, 3 cheese or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's just get these moments in front of the camera so we can all remember these days because they do go by way too fast.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, hon, and we will talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your day, okay?
Yes, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye, Bianca. Okay, did it stop?